Okay, in this next video, we're going to try to find the equation of any asymptotes for h of x equals 3 divided by x. We've already got that entered into our y equals button here. Let's take a look at what the graph looks like. And we're seeing, there's a horizontal asymptote here, y equals 0. We've also got a vertical asymptote here at x equals 0. In this case, it's pretty easy to see these asymptotes. If they ask us for the equation, just make sure that you are writing an equation, you're not just writing down the numbers. So we should really write down x equals 0, that's my VA or my vertical asymptote, and also y equals 0, your horizontal asymptote. Remember, any problem values in the denominator, that's always going to be where you see a vertical asymptote. So because when 0 goes into this denominator, that's undefined, we can't divide by 0. Graphically, we're always going to see that as a vertical asymptote. Now, when you're checking for horizontal asymptotes, you're really checking for end behavior. What's happening way out here when x is really big, or way down here when x is really small? And you can imagine, if I put in 1,000 or 1,000,000 or 1,000,000,000, 3 divided by 1,000,000,000, that's a very tiny number. It's approaching 0. So the bigger that x gets, the smaller that this entire fraction gets. It's approaching 0. And you can see that here. As x gets bigger and bigger and bigger, the function is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. It's approaching, but never touching, a value of 0. In part H, they want us to find the asymptotes for g of x, 4 divided by x minus 1 plus 2. Go to your y equals button. We'll enter in that function. Be careful that you're using brackets if you want the entire denominator to be x minus 1. Okay, let's see what this graph looks like. Alright, we're having a similar shape, but even just looking at our graphics calculator, it's a little bit difficult to determine what are those asymptotes. So your graphics calculator will help, but it also helps just by looking at your equation. Remember, vertical asymptotes come from problems in the denominator. I can see here that I'm going to have a problem if x is equal to 1, because 1 minus 1 makes the denominator go to 0. And we're seeing that here on the graph, right here at x equals 1. There's our vertical asymptote. So vertical asymptote here, x equals 1. The graph kind of helps us see it, but we can also see that just by looking at the equation. Now again, to find the horizontal asymptote, you're thinking about the end behavior. What's happening way down here at positive infinity or maybe negative infinity? As x gets really, really big, say 1,000,000 or 1,000,000,000 or 1,000,000,000, if I subtract 1 off of it, it's not really changing it. It's 4 divided by a huge number. This entire piece is basically shrinking to 0. It's disappearing. The only thing I'm left over with here is this plus 2. And that is going to be our horizontal asymptote right here. As x gets bigger and bigger and bigger, our function is approaching a value of positive 2. So again, if they're asking us for an equation, just be sure that you don't jot down a number only, but all equations have to have equal signs. There's our asymptotes for G and F.